This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles.
He's Greg, I'm Nick. We're brought to you by Athletic Greens, one-stop shopping for 75 high-quality vitamins to help you start your day right. You know, earlier in the week we said, well, maybe we'll do another podcast, maybe not this week. It'll depend on the news. And then everybody in the media got the email. And people know what email I'm talking about. The uncharacteristic email, the unusual email, the odd email from the Patriots. Just the gist of it, people know by now. It says that the Patriots, in the headline of the email, says the Patriots are to extend Jerod Mayo, which was interesting. Inside the body of the email, they said they're looking long-term with Jerod Mayo. And they also let everybody know, Greg, that they were going to start offensive coordinator. Yeah, not offensive coaches, not an offensive person. Offensive coordinator job interviews will start next week. When you first saw this email, I saw you tweet about giving it like a triple check. Mm-hmm. Just what in the world? What was, when I saw it, I said, wow, this is not Belichick business happening right now.
Yeah, I was completely shocked. I had to look at it for a good couple minutes. Like, you know, first of all, it came from Stacey James, who is director of media relations for the Patriots. Normally, you get general press releases from a generic Patriots media relations email account. So this is coming directly from Stacey. I think a lot of us in the media wondered if Stacey had been hacked. You know, and I sort of studied it, like, you know, it was put on like Patriots, like letterhead and stuff like that. And like, I'm looking through to see if, you know, it was some elaborate fake. Maybe somebody was trying to dupe us all in the media to be like, oh, look at those idiots. They'll fall for anything, that sort of thing. I mean, not that that hasn't happened this year or anything. And it was just that stunning, Nick, that, you know, the Patriots of William Stephen Belichick, the guy who, you know, there can be reports that the Patriots have signed so-and-so to a contract, and he's expected on the practice field later that day, and Belichick will say, we don't comment on contract negotiations. And that's the policy of Bill Belichick, that they never, ever comment on contract negotiations. And here they are admitting that they're in contract negotiations with Jerod Mayo. And then to say that they are going to begin interviewing for offensive coordinator, that they're even telling you that they're starting the process and that they are going to name an offensive coordinator at the end of the day, after we just went through more than a year of Bill Belichick, you know, us asking questions about Bill, who's going to be the play caller, who's going to do this, who's going to do that. And he basically told us to go pound sand. This same team with the same head coach is now telling you all about their business as far as what they're going to do on the offensive side. I mean, I almost fell over in my chair when I saw it. It is not hyperbole to say it is completely unprecedented for the Patriots with Bill Belichick as coach to send out information like this. And so that's sort of where you start. And I think that says a lot, Nick. And you know, yeah, I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit more, but you know, there's you know, people who will, you know, in talking to different sources around the teams and things like that, trying to figure out exactly what's going on. There's an easy way, you know, I was told, like, you know, we want to keep Jerod, and, you know, he had been mentioned for other jobs and we want to make him a priority. And then, like, you know, the offensive coordinator position is more about being in lockstep with NFL policy and other BS like that. I mean, you know, look, I'm sure that's true to some extent, and I'm glad to see them being more public about it. And especially considering the Rooney Rule and other implications, which, you know, we talked about last week about how that's a bigger deal. No one was making a big deal out of it. And that's all great. But look, Nick, the Patriots don't completely do a 180 in terms of what they're doing unless something outside of the box, outside of the norm is happening. And to me, this has the fingerprints of the Crafts saying, basically putting Bill in a box and taking a little bit of his power away and saying, like, Bill, like, we let you do what you wanted to do. And we didn't say anything. We knew it was unconventional. We let you do it. You had earned that. We talked about that and whatever. But you blew it this year. And so that's done. And we're going to do things the right way from now on and to get this franchise back on track.
Couple of quick things here. Number one, this was the same head coach who stood up at the podium just a day or two prior to this email, doing what Bill does, right? It was business as usual at that media presser. And, you left wondering, all right, does he truly appreciate what happened here? And fans were asking, is this going to be the same old Bill? And you were saying, Greg, for a long time that Bill, he understands that he messed up. He understands that he did not do the right thing with the offensive staff. And, publicly, though, we never saw any inkling of that from Bill. Such a dramatic change in the approach tells you this is not Bill Belichick's doing. We've seen Bill Belichick run this football operation for a couple of decades. We've never seen anything like this, which tells you that it wasn't Bill's doing. We know how Bill operates. This is anti-Bill Belichick operational, modus operandi, so to speak, right? This is completely different. So if this was Bill, we would not have gotten that email yesterday. We would not have been told about Jerod Mayo, and we would not have been told about offensive coordinator interviews next week. It's just no way that would have happened. So to me, it's obvious the Krafts are involved here. I would also say that it really shines a light on how much of a locked box Belichick has kept here in New England for 2 decades. The fact that this getting out, this, being emailed is such a revelation, it is so unprecedented, really tells you the lengths that Belichick has gone throughout his Patriots career to keep the information in-house as much as he can, unless he wants it out there, wink, wink. But it really does show you that, he's got this thing in a lockbox. And I would just say this, Greg, before we move to the Mayo stuff and get into the particulars, this is refreshing. And I don't necessarily need it every single offseason. I don't want RKK to turn into Jerry Jones, but this was refreshing. I loved that they came out and in no uncertain terms said, this is what we're doing. This is what we want to do. We're actually going to give guys titles. I thought it was great. And I read what you wrote last night, and you talked about it being a positive step in the right direction. I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. I think this was a great thing for the Patriots to do to make sure, to let everybody know, yeah, we know what's going on. This was horse bleep the last year, and it's not going to happen this year. So I thought that was a great step by the franchise. Let's get into some of the particulars now about Jerod Mayo. Again, the email was interesting because it says on kind of the top headline letterhead that the Patriots are to extend Jerod Mayo. You read that language, to me, that means a deal is really close to being done, if not done already. And then they mentioned long-term inside the body. Greg, what's up with Jerod Mayo?
Okay, so a couple things on this. First of all, Mayo and Belichick both signed off on this being put out. So that should tell you something. I know there's been some school of thought that this was the Patriots trying to, sort of thwart other teams or, that sort of thing. That's not what was going on here. From my understanding, the Krafts love Mayo. And I can tell you, and let's backtrack a little bit, because I just want to say, for all the people out there who thought some of my commentary about Belichick's future here and how it wasn't assured. And, look, they ended up going 2-5 down the stretch instead of 0-7. A lot of the focus was on the Cardinals game because the thought around the building was things were so precarious at that point with the team that if they lost that game, 0-7 was really 0-7, and losing the team completely was on the table at that point in time. But credit to the Patriots, they won that game. They won the Dolphins game. We don't need to get into style points or who the quarterbacks were or anything like that. The fact of the matter is they finished 2-5 and went 8-9. And I also reported that going into the final meeting for Kraft and Belichick, Belichick's future was, I would say, not assured. Depending on his attitude and how accommodating he was, like, that's from rock solid ownership sources that it was. I mean, nobody's saying like, oh, he was on his way to being pushed out, but no, they, all options were on the table was the way it was termed to me. And they heard the right things and Bill had the right attitude. We talked about that, previously. And I think that, if for those who are out there with the illusion that Bill Belichick can do whatever he wants after what he's done here for 20 plus years and the 6 Super Bowl titles, I think this tells you that is not correct. That this is the Krafts, flexing their muscle, following up on the letter to season ticket holders that says we're going to be vigilant about this. We're going to make critical decisions about football operations. I think Bill ceded some of his personnel power previous to this. I think this is now him ceding some of his coaching control over his coaches and other things. And so I just wanted to say that. As far as Mayo, my understanding was, look, he was fed up and ready to go. He was very much wanted to get out, and which we talked about would have been a terrible look for the Patriots. There's no reason for Jerod Mayo to go and take basically a lateral position or be a defense coordinator / play caller somewhere else where he could have that opportunity here. And I know the Krafts think very much of Jerod, and not that Belichick doesn't. I think he does, but I think this is very similar to the Josh McDaniels situation with the Colts, where Bill's kind of pitter-pattering his feet, doing his Bill type of stuff, but the Krafts get involved and bring a sense of urgency to things and bring people together, be like, look, this is what you need, this is what you need, this is what we need, let's figure something out. And I think this is the Krafts, stepping in and making sure that they are starting to retain the best possible people. Because remember, when McDaniels was going to go, there was no in-house guy ready to go. There wasn't even this time, let alone years prior. And I think the way the Krafts look at it, and especially in terms of just the head coaching position, because remember, that was a tenuous time in the whole Brady Belichick dynamic, and no one internally was sure how things were going to go. Like, Bill could have left, Tom could have left, where were the Krafts going to come down? Were they going to say, no, we want Brady, and then Bill says he wants to leave? They just wanted to make sure they had an in-house option in case anything happens. Well, now Jerod Mayo is that in-house option, that if for whatever reason, whether it's performance, health-related, Bill retires, whatever, the Krafts just didn't want to leave themselves like, the Jets when Bill Parcells decided to walk away and Belichick decided he didn't want it. And then all of a sudden they're in coaching purgatory. They don't want any of that stuff. McDaniels was the quote unquote in-house successor to Belichick for a while. That doesn't mean he was the successor, but in terms of if the worst happens, McDaniels can step in and be the head coach. That person is now Jerod Mayo. Someone internally used the word successor to me. I don't think that means he's the definite successor. I think he's a possibility down the line. But if something say happens to something to Belichick, mid-season, I think Jerod Mayo would be the interim head coach. And I don't think if he left, I don't think there was a person on staff that they felt comfortable with that. So I think that's part of the deal here. As far as Mayo and other jobs, I think it's being reported, I'm not up on the latest reports, but he's basically taking his name out of defensive coordinator interviews. I think he's still on the docket.
I'll jump in. I'll jump in and update people quickly. So if they haven't seen it, Jerod Mayo has pulled his name from the Browns defensive coordinator interview, so that's been pulled. And it seems like, maybe head coach, he'd be willing to have a conversation. But I think it's now at this point, the DC jobs are out of the mix.
Yeah, I think he's still I think the Panthers, I would be surprised if he doesn't take the Panthers head coaching interview. The Cardinals are another possibility. Even if he has no intention of really leaving at this point and he feels assured He's gotten what he wanted from the Patriots. You never turn down a head coaching interview because you never know what's going to happen and who you're going to be talking to and where they might go and things like that. So, and I think Jerod could be a candidate with the Panthers. I think he could be a candidate with the Cardinals, depending on, I think they're going to name the GM first and then go from there. But it's interesting, Nick. I don't have any inside information on exactly what the Patriots gave to Mayo to assuage him. If I'm him, I'm not staying unless I get to call plays, because if somebody else is going to give me that opportunity, aren't I getting closer to being a head coach? Who knows? But that's where things are going.
I was going to ask you that, as far as the role, because people have thrown out assistant head coach, people have thrown out, he'll now call the plays. I saw maybe associate head coach with co-defensive coordinator title being thrown out there. So you haven't heard really anything as far as his specific role moving forward. But I do wonder, and I think a lot of people are wondering, where does this leave Steve Belichick? And are we going to, I'd imagine, since we got the offensive coordinator title in the email, I would have to imagine that Mayo stays. He doesn't get one of those head coaching gigs. He stays. And I do think it's telling that Jerod okayed this press release to be sent out, this email to be sent out, because he is okaying this idea of telling everybody in the NFL that he's about to be extended here in New England. Now, maybe he thinks that's a leverage play, and maybe that brings urgency to places like Arizona and Carolina. And if they're really serious about him, he can now say, hey, look, I'm about to get extended here and be here long term. So, crap or get off the pot, so to speak. But I do think it's telling that he allowed that email to be sent. I think it's rather obvious if he had it his way, he would rather stay in New England if he's not getting a head coaching gig. So maybe that's just a workaround there. But I do think that the big question is Steve Belichick and what this title is going to be. So I guess we'll have to kind of sit back and wait and see how this is described to us and explained to us what Mayo will be doing. Let's jump to the offensive coordinator position in a minute. But first, tell the people about Athletic Greens.
Athletic Greens, I started taking them because I wanted to make sure I was getting all my vitamins and nutritional supplements I needed in one place. Now I've been on it for 6 months and I love it. It doesn't taste like it's super healthy. It kind of has a mild tropical taste, a little bit minty, and I actually look forward to it each morning. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source ingredients, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, aging, all the things you're looking for. I take it first thing in the morning. It's now part of my daily routine, and I'd be lost without it. I love how it contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, while still tasting good. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop and a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/Bedard. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Bedard to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
All right, Greg, what should we expect with this offensive coordinator search and these interviews beginning next week?
It's a great question. I mean, look, this is uncharted territory for Bill Belichick and the Patriots. First of all, in accordance to the rooting rule, they have to interview at least 2 minority candidates. These interviews do not have to be in person. Before this announcement happened, Belichick and the rest of the coaches were supposed to be on vacation through the end of next week. Most of the coaches were gone anyways when this announcement came out. I would assume Belichick might do some Zoom interviews with people. We just don't know, Nick. And it's nobody has any inside information. Again, this is now going back to it's all Belichick, and the Crafts are going to be involved, and I'm sure they're going to suggest some candidates for Bill to interview. But it really comes down to, and Bill's not going to tell anybody this, like, what does he want to do with his offensive system? We've talked about it before, but it's important to note. This goes back to his Cleveland days. Something that Bill fundamentally believes is that in the best interest of the team, you cannot be changing playbooks all the time. You have a Patriots offense. Now, they tweaked things this year and did things differently. Does he want to keep going in that direction? Does he look for somebody from the Shanahan tree to do that? Somebody who actually, I don't know, knows the offense and can teach it to people? Or is he going to go back and say, well, that was a disaster. Let's go back to what we did for years. And does that bring in more Patriots tree people? Bill O'Brien, you know, Nick Caley. It's interesting that, you know, and I saw you reference this on Twitter. Nick Caley's being mentioned for possible offensive coordinator interviews. And it just makes the decision to look at if he's being thought of this way outside the building, first of all, somebody is telling him that. Like, somebody is giving Nick Caley, hey, you need to talk to Nick Caley. Somebody like Josh McDaniels and other guys in Vegas who have worked with Nick are saying, like, this guy's really smart. He's really good. You should talk to him. Which makes this crap show look even worse from the past year because they had the guy in-house. And for whatever reason, dicking around with titles and money and stuff like that, they just didn't promote him, which was just asinine. So do they think that they want to stay with how they've always done things? And that would limit the pool again. Are there candidates like a Cliff Kingsbury who could meld the two a little bit better? Here's what I think, Nick. I think the priority, first of all, they need to answer a couple questions. They need to answer how much are they convinced on Mac Jones? Is he the guy for next year? And you don't have to make a decision on him long term, but as far as next year, are you saying, all right, we really did Mac wrong this year and the rest of the offense, that was obvious. Let's give them the best shot this season. And what's the best shot for them? What's the best thing? What's the best thing for Mac Jones or that type of quarterback? To me, that's the old Patriots system. If you're not wedded to it, maybe you go in a different direction and say, we'll see if Mac can do this, but this is the direction we want to go. And then I think the other main thing, if I'm Belichick, is he has to find somebody, and these guys are rare. They're not easy to find. You have to find someone who can coach the quarterback. And that, because anything else in the NFL, it doesn't matter. I don't care what you have on defense or special teams or whatever. If you can't get the quarterback playing well, and that means you need to teach them the fundamentals, the reads, the minutia of playing quarterback. If you don't have a guy on staff that can do that, the rest doesn't really matter. So, answering those main questions will sort of lead you in a general direction. But as far as what I think they're going to do, who the hell knows? I mean, it's really up to Belichick, and he's got a bunch of questions he needs to answer first before he even gets into, who am I going to talk to for this?
Right. When we look at Bill O'Brien, because he's the name on everybody's list, right? That at the top. When we look at O'Brien, this idea of Jerod Mayo being the possible successor, would that impact O'Brien's thought process? If O'Brien's thinking, I'll go back to New England if I have a chance to take over the program eventually, would that have any impact? Or O'Brien would just more look at it like, I'm getting back into the NFL. I'm going to be the offensive coordinator. And it doesn't really matter if it's New England or somewhere else. Getting back into the NFL gives me the inside track of getting a head coaching job again.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit, and I've heard other people bring this up. I think, I understand the question. And I do think, look, I even think before this press release came out, from what I heard about O'Brien, and I have not talked to him about this, just to let people know, that he wasn't exactly keen on the Patriots, what was going on. I mean, and maybe things have changed, because I think my guess is he's looking for clarity in terms of how much autonomy he's going to have. Can he run his offense? Can he do what he wants to do? That sort of thing. And, before this came out, Maybe he was dubious about that. I don't know. But the last I heard before the press release was that he wasn't super excited about coming back here the way the Patriots were formed. But I think, look, if you're Bill O'Brien, if you feel better, if Bill says, like, look, I'm going to give you autonomy just like Josh had, blah, 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 things can change so rapidly. Like Mayo could be in the same position as, Josh McDaniels got off the plane in the Colts, and then he was interviewing for jobs and wanted to leave like within 2 years. That could be Mayo too. Mayo could, if Bill's going to be here for another 3 years, if somebody offers Jerod Mayo a head coaching job, whether it's this year or next year, he's going to take it, because especially for defensive coaches, those things don't grow on trees. So I think for O'Brien, he wouldn't really care, and he would also look at Josh's path where it's like, all right, fine, maybe I'm not getting a head coaching job here, but look at my resume, look what I did in Houston, and there were a lot of good things there that he did in Houston, Alabama, Penn State. If he does a good job, if he resurrects Mac Jones in this offense, that makes him even more attractive, and, who knows what happens from there.
What's this mean for Matt Patricia and Joe Judge as well? Because obviously if Mayo stays, you've got Steve. Steve will be involved somehow, whatever his role is and title is. You've got Mayo and Steve on the defensive side. You've already come out and said Patricia's not the guy as the OC. We're going to start interviewing people to replace him. Where does this leave those two gentlemen?
I think they'll always be here. I think they'll always have a job with Bill. There are people around the team that certainly have an opinion on that, on whether they should or, I'm going to leave that alone. But I think they're going to be here. I think they'll be reassigned. Could Matt Patricia? I think a lot of it will depend on the offensive coordinator. Like if they bring in some Shanahan type guy, maybe they want the guy who's going to teach more of their offensive line techniques. But if I had to guess right now, I think that Matt Patricia is in a supervisory role, would be considered for the offensive line coach. I do think he's a good positional coach. I think that he would do a fine job at just offensive line if he was given that. Him and Billy Yates together, I think, could figure it out. I think that Joe Judge will go to special teams. I think Acord may be, reassigned or assistant special teams coach. And if he doesn't like it, then go find something else. But I think that's where it leaves those guys.
Love it. Fine with it. If Patricia goes to the offensive line and focuses his energy there, I'm fine with it. If he goes upstairs with some consultant, role or whatever the hell we'd call it, fine with it. Get him away from offense, get him away from the play calling, at least. To me, this is a really positive step, and I don't want to go overboard. Let's see how this process plays out. But if you're telling me at the end of the day, you've got Mayo staying with a little bit more stroke and power within the organization, you've got Patricia away from the OC title and the play calling duties, and he's doing O-line or he's upstairs, and you've got Joe Judge going to special teams and getting rid of Acord or reassigning him, as you put it, fine with it. I think it again comes down to who they hire as OC, or they promote Caley, whatever happens. And, the Jets were the team that was mentioned. I think Robert Saleh is a pretty smart guy. So if Robert Saleh has heard some solid things about Caley and he's going to talk to him about the OC gig, I do think that gives legitimacy to Nick Caley as a possibility here. But we'll see how it plays out. All I could say is, looking at it and how this offseason has begun within the first few days, some positive vibes. Let's see if they follow through.
I just on that, Nick, just real quick, I just want to say I agree. I mean, I think this is, if you were fearful that this season wasn't going to change Bill or the team at all, and they were just going to play out the string with Belichick, this says no. And this says that the Crafts are being vigilant, that they're saying, like, this hasn't been good enough. 3 years straight without 4 years straight without a playoff victory, 2 losing seasons in 3 years, booze raining down at Gillette. The Crafts hear you. They are on it. and they are just not going to – this is not playing out the string. They are going to be proactive about making sure that Belichick is his best version of himself going forward.
That's what the fans want, but it's not just only, I don't want to paint it as the Crafts giving in to the fans. I don't want to do that.
Yeah. This
is the Crafts, as I said, looking at the operation and saying, this hasn't gone well. And Robert Kraft is a very smart businessman. He understands the situation. And look, I don't think he's trying to meddle like Jerry Jones, but things are screwed up here with his franchise. And he's the dude that ultimately is in control and responsible for what happens. And so I do think it was time for him to step in and say, Bill, we've got to change how we're approaching this because it's just not working, man. Like, I appreciate you and I love what you've done, but it's time to change some of this shit. And so I appreciate the fact that RKK has done that. And I do think he's one of the best owners in sports. And I think, he's stepping up to make sure the operation is now going to move forward in the right manner and fashion. All right, quickly, All-Pro AP voting has been released. Marcus Jones, first team, special teamer. He gets the first team nod. Love it, Greg. I'm sure that you don't have much beef with that, do you?
No, but I just think it was actually a punt returner. And I think, in today's day and age, like that and kick returner, look, Gunnar Olszewski was first team All-Pro punt returner. So I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. Awenu was third at right guard. I thought that was legit. Judon was sixth on edge, which just left him out. He was right behind Max Crosby, who you and I both think like he at least should have been second team All-Pro. I mean, Hassan Reddick. I know. Hassan Reddick. Like, really? Like, what are we talking about here? And like, I did think, I was like, it's not fair that Micah Parsons is an edge, considered an edge rusher. But then I looked at his snaps, and most of them have been on a D line. So I don't have any complaint there, I guess. It would be nice if he was more of a linebacker and left a little bit more of edge. Some Patriots fans will say Duggar was robbed. He was tied for 12th at safety. I think that's accurate. And, he had more issues in this past game. I mean, people remember the big plays, and those are great, and it was a great play. His interception against the Dolphins, that was awesome. But, like, people also forget all the touchdowns and big plays that he's given up. I mean, remember the first Dolphins game, the fourth down when he missed the tackle and, went for a 40-yard touchdown before halftime? So people forget that. McCourty got a vote. Slater was fifth for special teams. Schooler received a vote also for special teams. I thought all of that was pretty accurate in terms of the Patriots.
Let's run through these quickly. Niners, Seahawks, first game of the weekend tomorrow afternoon. Niners minus 9.5, Greg.
I like the 49ers to cover in this game. I do think it's wet out there in California, which will help the Seahawks. But I guess you would know a lot more than me. But I just think the 49ers are too good at this point.
It's rained 95, 98% of the time the last month.
Wow.
It's raining again today. It's been nonstop rain and wind. Nonstop. It's been crazy. I'll go with the Niners. I do think this could be maybe a tighter game than expected to start out because of the weather. But look, the Niners will be able to run the football. The Seahawks run defense is terrible. The first two games this year, Kenneth Walker has run for less than like 60 yards combined in those games. If Walker can't get going, I don't think the Seahawks offense has much of a shot, especially in the weather. So I'll go Niners. Chargers minus 2.5 at the Jaguars. And by the way, Mike Williams, good job, Brandon Staley. Way to play your guys in a meaningless game and cost Mike Williams. Mike Williams is out. And then he doubles down, Staley does, and says, I don't have a problem with how I handled things. Way to take accountability. Chargers minus 2.5 against the Jags.
Yeah, I can't believe they're favored there, and especially now though with Mike Williams, they're a different offense when Mike Williams is out there. When he's not out there, they're very average. I think the Jaguars can pound away at the Chargers in the running game with their running backs, but also Trevor Lawrence. I like the Jaguars in this game.
Yeah, I kind of do too.
Even though I love Herbert, but
I agree with you, man. Mike Williams he is a huge absence within this offense. This offense is just different with him. Austin Eckler's a headache. He will be a headache. Keenan Allen's had a down year due to injury, but I like the Jags at home as well. Bills minus 13.5 against Miami.
I like the Bills. I don't know if they'll cover because I do think the Dolphins have the ability to run the ball. If they go straight sort of pound the ball, run action with Skylar Thompson, take a couple shots, I think they can hang around a little bit. But, I mean, Skylar freaking Thompson, are you kidding me? And probably DeMar Hamlin will probably walk out onto the field. I mean, good luck to the Dolphins.
It's just so difficult. That's a huge number, but I haven't seen enough of Skylar Thompson to, even with 13.5, to take the Dolphins in this game on the road. So I'll go with the Bills as well, even though it's a huge number. Vikings -3 against the Giants.
Giants will be spunky and they'll have some things for the Vikings, but I think I think the cardiac kids and the Vikings find a way again. I mean, even if they're down, they just have the ability to come back. And Justin Jefferson, I just don't think that the Giants have enough to match up with him.
Bengals -8.5 against the Ravens, and I'll agree with Greg on the last one. Bengals -8.5 versus Baltimore.
I love the Bengals. No Lamar Jackson. No chance. I mean, the Bengals are as good as they want to be. Sometimes they lose interest, like in the Patriots game in the second half, but they have the ability to freaking steamroll a lot of teams, and including the Ravens. I mean, the Ravens have a good defense. They know each other. It's a tough division game. It could be a little bit tighter than that, than the 8.5. But, I just think the Bengals are too good at the end of the day.
I'll go with the Ravens with the points. I think the Bengals win the game. Cowboys -2.5 at Tampa.
I'm going with Tommy. It's looked ugly at times. It'll look ugly in this game. I don't think Dak is playing very well. I think he'll turn the ball over. I think the Tampa defense will turn it up in this game. They kind of turn it off and turn it on. I think they will turn it up in this game. And I think Tommy will make enough plays and the Cowboys will stay winless in the postseason.
Yeah, I've got Tommy at home. All right, let's jump to the BSJ member question of the day. $39.99 on the annual plan, all the great coverage they give to you. What do you got, Greg?
Yeah, real quick. Somebody was asking me, a couple people in my BSJ member chat, about the report from Chris Sims that Mac was going behind the Patriots' back to call people and looking for ideas, and that rubbed Belichick the wrong way. My thought, first of all, it's no secret that a lot of guys on the Patriots were talking out of school about what was going on with the offense. I mean, you could find a clip of me on NBC Sports Boston from May saying that people are alarmed with what's going on in the offense. So that was going on throughout. Mac Jones asking people for ideas. First of all, I don't even know why that's such a bad thing. I mean, to me, it sounds like the quarterback was trying to find a way for the team to get better and was like looking, asking people who actually know something about offense as opposed to his coaches. So, but did Bill like Mac talking out of school and he wasn't the only person? Let me tell you that. No. And did it bother him? Yeah. But at the end of the day, Belichick's smart. He knows he screwed the pooch. He knows he screwed Mac Jones and these guys. And he gave them a bit of a pass. And so I don't think things are bad between Belichick and Mac Jones. I think they're just looking for a fresh start. And I think they have the ability to do that with this offensive coordinator search.
A fresh start. It felt like a fresh start this week. It was a positive first step for this organization. It looks like it's going to be a very newsworthy offseason that we should have fun with. He's Greg. I'm Nick. We'll talk to you next week.